you. Well, yeah. I just get my hair out of my face and
I
stretch
love
a
it.
little bit.
There we go.
Okay, so how was it this week?
It was good. My parents came in for the weekend, and that was good. I think I was watching the video that we had posted yesterday, and
Which one? Because I've got like all of them on there.
the one that we did last time, where we were talking a lot about grace.
Oh, yeah.
Giving yourself and honoring what makes me happy. And it's so funny how your family, and I'm sure it's for anybody, right? Your family just throws you into a tizzy. Just when you think you got things figured out, you're like, oh my. So eating was easy. I just, when I'm with them, I feel judged, all the time. I feel judged, and it'll probably be that way forever because they just don't look at things the way I look at things now. And I have to look at them this way.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I don't, I get thrown in. And I found myself at several times over the weekend going, wow, well, maybe I shouldn't eat that, or maybe I'll just finish this because everyone else is finishing their stuff, their dinner, even though I'm not hungry anymore, and you just find yourself going back to the ways of being that you are when you're around your family, which is not necessarily healthy.
Well, no, and the good news is for you is you got that experience, right? You got to be in that environment, and you can see where, okay, when I'm in an environment with the people that are, would you say these people are the most important to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
So they're your clan. They're your, it's your nest. It's your space that you should feel the most secure.
Yeah.
But you feel, wait, I guess, tell me if I'm wrong, you're feeling the most insecure around these people.
Yeah.
They're the most important, but yet you feel the most insecure around them.
Yeah. Well, and one of the other things that I thought, my husband, he left for the weekend. He's a photographer, so he left for the weekend to go do pictures. And that was actually kind of good because then I just had to deal with my parents and not with him. But I think I am going to have to sit him down and kind of talk with him because and my worry is exactly what we talked about last time, and that is they can't possibly understand. You're trying to explain something to somebody that they have no context. But I feel like I have to have that conversation with him because he's supposed to be the most important person in my life, and I should be able to share this with him versus feeling judged every single day. So, I just don't.
So are you saying that the judgments you're getting from your family are getting worse? Or is it you knowing what you're trying to accomplish? Is it you that is feeling, is it you that is feeling judged because of how conflicted you are about what we're doing?
I think that's it.
Yeah.
I don't think they changed at all. I think it's me.
Yeah, and that's where your need and this impulse, you're getting impulses to explain yourself. Maybe that you need validation to feel that you're doing the right thing. Like you're needing other people to say, yeah, that sounds great, to confirm that it's right for you.
Yeah.
Well,
that's exactly.
Have any of them watched? Well, it's not going to work out for you if you do.
Yeah.
Partly because how many of them have watched all of my videos?
None of them. They have no idea.
How many of them have admitted they have an eating disorder?
None of them.
How many of them have questioned the body image ideology?
Yeah.
So even if you try to explain it, you were prepared for this over time. Not only have you watched, questioned, judged all of my information, but you have lived it. You have tangible experience with it. So it's not like you're hearing me and going, she's full of shit. You're going, she's full of shit, and you're living in it going, wow, okay, now I understand what she was explaining because I'm living it. Now I get it. Holy crap. This is not shit. This is real. right?
Yeah.
There's a downside to this diet mentality. There's a downside to anorexic belief systems, right? So you have this internal experience that you're getting pulled, right? You're getting pulled to the belief system that, you have to work on it for it to be accomplished. And then there's the other side that says, well, the more you work on it, the further away you get from accomplishing it. Because ultimately it undercuts your mental well-being, the mental health aspect.
You hit it right on the head. That's exactly what it feels like. I think everyone around me is exactly the same. I just feel like I'm having this internal conflict every single day.
Yeah.
And
well, that's understandable. That's understandable because what you believed before. Give me like can you do 10 bullet points of what your beliefs were before?
My beliefs were is if you were mentally strong enough, you can achieve the body that you want. Okay. And so it's a mental deal. That if you just eat the right foods, 80% of it is all the food. So you just need to watch what you eat and you will have, the body that you desire. If you don't work out, then your body is not going to be able to be mentally focused to be able to accomplish this. And my husband will love me if I look a certain way. And
hold on a second. So I want to just make sure everything is pointing to the body image.
Absolutely.
Okay, so far you said, number one, if you want that body image, you'll get it. Create it in your head and your body's going to transform to that. The other thing is the food you eat will create that body.
Yes.
The exercise you do will create that body.
Yes.
Okay.
And when you have that body, then you will be privileged enough to have love and affection
from your husband,
from anyone whether it be people you know or people you don't know.
Okay.
And suddenly things that you say in your life have credibility. Whereas before, when you were fat, there was no credibility in anything you said.
No, because being fat means that you are a sloth, you're a loser, you are stupid, you're lazy, you have no drive, you have no intelligence, you really don't know what you're talking about, you really have no value in the community, you're not worthy of sex, you're not worthy of being sexually attracted to, you're not worthy of attention, you're not worthy of accolades, you're not worthy of anything, actually.
Exactly.
Okay. So, and your husband's going to leave you.
Oh, God, yes.
Okay.
My husband is going to leave me unless I lose the weight and I look how he thinks I should look. Or what the image is of, whatever that is. You know what I mean? Like, maybe it's not his image. Maybe it's my image.
I think we're coming to that. I mean, because you have the image in your mind of what you need to look like. It's a visual.
Yeah.
Right? And then that visual creates these feelings. Like, oh, if I look in the mirror and I have this look, then I will feel like I've accomplished something. And that accomplishment is security and safety with my family, my husband, and my clan. Yeah. That to me tells me, right, that's your only asset.
Yeah.
I mean, or lack thereof.
Yeah.
But it's like you've attached to that as the asset you provide to that clan. Like that's the only thing you could provide. There's nothing else you can give.
Right.
So if
I only had everything would be perfect in my life. Everything. Just like the commercials show you. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm so much happier. Look at me. I just don't feel bad about myself anymore now that I have this thinner waist and this dress size. I can be myself.
Yeah.
You've been brainwashed. That's what that is. And and you've attached to it. What they talk about in the behavioral science is when a human being internalizes that picture, you internalized it, meaning it became you. It became the object of desire that was it became your identity. Like that's how you identify yourself.
Yeah.
And
so
what we're doing is we're saying, what's your real identity? Like if that isn't the option, I know I repeat this, right? If being thin and having that body is impossible. It's impossible. How many times have you tried?
My whole life.
Okay, let's talk about that. Yeah, let's talk about that. Your true integrity, everything that you just, the 4 things you listed, which is if I want it, I can achieve it. If I eat properly, I can achieve it. If I exercise properly, I can achieve that body. All of the things that the diet culture sells you, you've done it. And you've done it with your heart and soul.
Yeah.
Has there been a lack of commitment on your part?
No. No.
So you've actually had this pureness to your effort, right?
Yeah.
So would you say that if you pull yourself out of it and actually give yourself a grade in terms of effort, what do you get?
Well, I get an A for effort.
Of course you do.
But I get an F for results.
Well,
I get an F for result.
An F for a result, but doesn't the diet culture tell you that if you do all of this, that you'll get the A?
Well, I had to have done something wrong because I didn't get it.
Well, I guess that's what I'm trying to get you to see. Like, have you done anything wrong? I mean, you've surrounded yourself with people who have the same beliefs, so it's not even a lack of like support.
Yeah, no, they always say surround yourself around people that are up to the same thing. I've even done that. What the hell's wrong with me?
You've never questioned the goal.
Yeah.
You never questioned like the belief or the image. You never questioned the imagery.
No.
And the realism of it. Like you just assumed that it was attainable.
Yeah.
And that you also assumed
around me. And so does everybody around me, so they all support that exact thing, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So they're all like, you can do it. Work harder, even though it's causing psychological harm.
Yeah.
Right? You're removing food to the point where it's anorexic in nature. And there's so much fear around it. And it's like, and then you wonder why you have these consequences that everybody who's in the culture has. Like binging, kind of like your sister said last time. Everybody does it. Well, yeah, of course everybody does that in that industry, in that culture. People who are into body image binge. Yeah, for sure. They binge exercise, they binge eat, they binge on purges. They do all sorts of binging in multiple ways. So the discontent here is that you're tired. You're tired. Yeah. It's almost like, you know how I've said multiple times, you should go back into it. How does that feel to say, yeah, let's do it. Let's do a challenge, a 30-day challenge for you where you remove sugar and grains. Let's do it. And let's add an hour of exercise at least 5 days a week. Because you know what? You can get that body. And that body is going to make your husband like you. And your family's going to all of a sudden be proud of who you are. And they're going to put you on a pedestal and your sister's going to be jealous.
Well, you know, it's funny when you say that now, probably because we've been talking off and on. And I really see the error of that paradigm. To think about going back into it, I can't.
I know, that's why I asked. I'm like, that's the conflict.
Yeah, and that's the conflict. It's that I know what they expect of me, but I mentally can't do it. I just can't. It's unobtainable for me to do what they want. Do you want
to do what they want?
If I could wiggle my nose, yeah, because I no longer have faith that, and I believe exactly what you said. I no longer have faith that the diet industry works. Thank God.
Well, so now, you know, there are success rates, right? You know those pictures of inspiration they put in the media and the cult exercise groups and the cult food mongering and all of what they're putting out there, you've done it. You did it. You did the extreme. And you've also done mediocre, right? Haven't you done Weight Watchers and Jenny Craig and Nutrisystem? And haven't you done any of those in the middle? Because those
No, it's... Well, and I did HCG. I've done HCG numerous times. And the funny thing is, even when you do obtain the results and you think your life's going to be perfect, this is the one thing that scares me. And this is why I've come to see you. Because even when you have the perfect image, to maintain that, given, like, that you can't. Given the environment, it's unhealthy. You can't maintain it. And you're miserable even when you do have it all, supposedly.
Well, you're right. Well, you could attain it. You could maintain it, but you have to stay anorexic in the way you eat. And the way and anorexic in the way you treat your body. So you have to, in fear, right? Because you don't trust that the body can do it on its own. That's the biggest flaw, I think, in the diet industry, is that when you achieve the results through an external measure, you have to have that measure just to maintain it. You didn't do it on your own. It's not yours. Right. And that's where that vulnerability comes from, because once you release yourself from the means that you use to the end, it's not yours anymore. So you're vulnerable to where your ability is at, right? And so the ability and the competence that you have with your body then takes over. And when you've been dieting and using anorexic measures for decades, how do you think your ability to listen to your body and to understand food, variety of food, relative to your own biological physiology, right, with hunger and appetite and all that, how developed is it going to be if you've been dieting for decades?
It's not. It's like you can't even hear your body. You can't even hear what it needs anymore.
Yeah, so you're left to be very weak and feel inadequate with regular food, and don't forget too the consequence of all the judgment and the shame of all these bad foods.
Yeah.
And if you go into those foods and you don't know how to use them and you have all the shame and the guilt, what happens as a consequence? You feel out of control.
You do. And that's the last thing you want to feel is out of control.
Well, and that out of control feeling makes you even attach further to diet religious systems. Like, I can't handle reality. I need the diet. Remember when you would listen to me and be like, she's dangerous. Her information's bad. This is not good for people. It was because you believed we need a religion with food to control ourselves, right? From all of that food that makes us eat it because it's got all the chemicals that makes us want more, right? Like, that's what makes you want more.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm here to say that's the truth. That's the outcome of the diet industry, and how many people actually maintain that body.
Oh God. Well, you and I talked about this. Nobody does.
Well, the people who are anorexic and they maintain their anorexia.
Well, that's true.
So
that's true. But the diet industry does not want to be successful, because if they're successful, you wouldn't need them.
Well, their measure of success is making money. So they actually want to be successful, and they've been very successful. They make hundreds of billions of dollars.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's their measure of success. They're not using your ability to eat in reality as a measure of success. That's the furthest thing from the conversation, right? I mean, everything they talk about is how to lose weight, how to feel better about yourself by measuring your waist every day.
Yeah. How
to feel good about yourself because you're back on the train of eating controlled and anorexic, right? Back on the train of minimizing your food into very small varieties. Like, that's healthy. So they're very successful in terms of how they measure success. But, your measure of success, if we really look at yours, it was feeling adequate in your family and secure with your husband.
Yeah.
That was your measure of success, but you used it through an image. If I get that body image, if I'm thin, I will feel good about who I am. I will feel safe. I will feel accomplished. Those feelings are really what that image represents.
Right.
You need to see that that's why your integrity and your work ethic in it was so A+. Because those emotions were riding on the diet. I mean, on the body image.
Yeah.
And it sucks that you didn't have success or that you didn't get those emotions when you did attain the image.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Which then makes me also, and it's funny, this is one that I kind of realized, if people treated me like garbage or didn't acknowledge the value that I bring to the table, it was okay because I didn't deserve that anyway. Now, when I get thin, then they'll have to listen to me and treat me right, because then I will be worthy of that and I won't have to put up with that shit anymore. So whether it be family members or, coworkers or whatever that is, you suddenly have a right to stand up for yourself versus, when you're fat, you don't have that right because, really, you don't have your... Is that sick or what?
Well, that's what the culture has taught you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you believed, and that's what you thought. You thought that being thin, you get respect. Being thin, you get, and people who are in that culture act that way.
Yeah.
People who are, into body image culture, they project their judgments on a lot of people. And you did it. And I think that's what you're feeling. It's like your karma is coming back to you. How's it feel?
It's uncomfortable.
Yeah, because you feel that judgment that you're feeling, that's your karma.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like the war is within me. Everyone else around me, like I said, seems fine. And they're doing the things that they always do. But I feel like there's this huge internal conflict going on.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and the other thing we're dealing with now is, you're looking at the foundation of your beliefs. That's what you're really dealing with, is what do I really believe now? First of all, I think you're going to have to, that karma I just talked about, that all of the judgment you projected onto people who were obese or overweight, and all of those ignorant assumptions you make about people, and all of, why can't they just do it?
Yeah.
Those pieces of shit, right? Why can't they just figure this out? They need to figure this out because, it's ruining our society.
Exactly. No, then that's sad.
Well, it's coming back to you. I think that's where this conflict is. Now you are feeling those judgments and it's not comfortable. And now you are on the receiving side of your own brain, and that's a big part of the conflict too, because you don't want to feel judged like that.
Yeah.
Who does?
Yeah, nobody does.
No.
But when
you're stones.
Exact thing other people.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, the stones that you threw at other people are now hitting you. It's your stone.
Yeah.
It's karma. That's what this is. And the lesson that you have to learn from it is, maybe I should open my mind to something more profound. To looking at humanity spiritually. Like, what is it about the human spirit? No matter what the body looks like, no matter what culture you come from, no matter what color of your skin, sexuality, where you were raised, religion you were born, any of your culture, what is the true essence of humanity that you didn't appreciate? And you're going to have to, because it is a projection from within yourself, you're going to have to decide that you are going to redefine your humanity, because that's the only way for you to project that out. You have to understand what it feels like to appreciate and to honor your spirit and your soul and your character that is authentic, right? You have to be able to honor that and praise that within yourself to then be able to know what it feels like to see it in someone else. Because if you can't see it in yourself, how are you going to recognize it when someone else is expressing their humanity, right?
Yeah.
You have to know how you express it intrinsically. You have to have your own experience with it. It was kind of like how you watched my videos and saw what I was doing and thought it was sucky until you had your own experience and you went, oh my God, I got to go back and watch these videos. She's making more sense to me. You had to have your own experience to then be able to go, oh, I get it. You need to have your own experience to what it's like to honor your humanity and to honor your character that is inherent, that is intrinsic, that is real. It's always been there since you were a child. Those characters, the characteristics that are just part of you being human, right? You have to honor them in order for you to be able to honor them in other people. And what's unfortunately happening, well, it's fortunate actually, is you're unraveling these beliefs that you had about yourself that you projected onto other people, and now you are witnessing them on the receiving end.
Yeah.
And it's,
but I am.
You are. And that, I think, telling your husband, he's not going to know how to help you move past it. Maybe what you're hoping for is that they will have enough compassion and enough love for you that they will say what I'm saying. You know, maybe you're hoping that your husband will say, oh my God, I love you so much. Like, I love your spirit. I love your honesty. I love your youthful essence. I love all of this about you. Don't even worry about it. Just heal yourself. Is that what you're looking for from him?
Actually, what I'm looking for is for him to say, you know, him to acknowledge, which is the same thing, that that he's not judging me, that I'm okay. Because that's how I feel judged, which is exactly what you just said, because of how I judged other people, that now I feel judged. And it's like this heightened awareness that has never been here before.
So what would it take for you to be judged physically and to continue to honor your spirit, your, spirituality, right? Because what's happening is you're saying, okay, feel like I'm being judged. How do I just allow that and continue to honor my spirit, right? If you're feeling judged, do you need to defend yourself? I wonder if this is you needing to be defensive.
That feels like the conflict that I'm having.
Okay, that you have to defend yourself against these judgments that are in your head that come from you and your karma and your past judgment of others. Based on the beliefs, right? Do you believe those beliefs? Meaning, do you believe that you need to be thin to have a voice? Do you believe you need to be healthy and fit to get respect?
I don't want to believe that, but I think that there's a part of me that does.
Okay, well, I think it's this part of the process. You need to stay here. This is an important part of you recognizing how wrong it is to be judged for that reason. And you're feeling that. And having that witness for you inside of yourself, feeling judged, which side do you want to be on? Do you want to be on the side that judges others? Or do you want to be on... You're on the receiving side. Which one would you rather defend?
Say that again. I'm having a hard time hearing it.
Okay, there's the side that says, you suck. You need to earn your shit. You need to earn respect. If you're not focusing on the way you look and your health and what you're putting in your mouth, you can just keep your mouth shut, you piece of shit. There's that side. And then there's the side that is receiving that information.
Well, obviously the side that's receiving the information.
Okay, you've been on both.
Yeah.
Right? So now you're on the receiving end. How does it feel? Do you like it?
It's horrible. It's very uncomfortable. It's horrible.
Do you feel that it's right, that like you deserve this? Do you feel like this is...
Yeah.
Okay, so you're on the other side.
Yeah.
Because if you truly believe that you deserve this, that means that you're actually the one sitting there thinking, you suck, you don't own anything, you're a piece of shit, right?
Yeah. No, I feel like it's like I deserve it.
Okay, so you're on the receiving side of it. That's not your position. You're actually on the other side. You're the perpetrator.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Because otherwise you wouldn't feel that way on the receiving side. So let's just pull yourself out of both sides and let's look from the top. How does it feel? Do you think it's okay for people to be defined this way?
No.
Okay, because that's your reality. That's what your heart is saying, right?
Yeah.
That it's not okay to moralize people this way. It's not okay to define people's value this way. Humanity shouldn't be limited by body image cults, right? And it's just wrong, and it's harmful to actually put people down this way.
Yeah.
Okay, because you're receiving it now. Tell me how it feels on the receiving end.
Well, I mean, it feels horrible. It feels, first, the main thing that it does is it stops you from expressing yourself, and it stops you from being yourself. So how we talked about, trying to, be pro-grace and self-worth and not worrying about perfection and no judgment. It's like they don't work together. You can't feel those things and feel like people are, you know what I mean? I feel like people are judging you all at the same time. It's like you have no self-expression to do those things.
No, you don't, especially if you're the perpetrator. If you're a perpetrator who is feeling defined by your failure and your beliefs, you're in a tiny little vortex of a box and you can't get out.
Right.
Like there's no, you can't have grace because this is your belief system and there's no grace in the belief system. So how do you give yourself lenience if you still believe that you have to be perfect? There's no grace in the belief system. Mm-hmm. That's why you feel so judged, because there's no grace. There's no like compassion. So what would happen if you started to have compassion? If you started to say, okay, here's the receiving end of this. Wow, this is not cool. Like, I understand what it feels like. Oh, this is wrong. I'm being defined and people are being defined. There's so much more to it than how much body fat you have and what's in the food you're eating. There's so much more to life and to humanity, right? That no one should be limited by this belief. But here's the thing. The only people limited by the belief are the people that believe the belief.
True.
Because if you don't believe it, right? Like if someone held you to a religion that you just don't believe in, do you care? Like if someone looked at you and said, "Oh my God, you're a sinner." You know why? Because you don't go to church, you don't pay your tithes, you're drinking alcohol, your kids, you guys had sex before you were married, you are living in sin. You need to repent.
It doesn't affect me at all.
No.
It doesn't bug me at all.
No, because you don't believe it.
Yeah.
That's why you're like, think of all the grace you give yourself from those belief systems.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much lenience that you're just like, that's cool. I'm going to keep on going.
Yeah.
Right?
And you give them the grace to have their opinion and not
defend yourself.
Take it on yourself.
You don't have to sit there and try to convince them.
Yeah.
Why would you do that, right? That's like talking to a troll on the internet.
Yeah.
You see, it's like there's no convincing because they believe it themselves and they wholeheartedly hold themselves to it themselves, right? And they believe that you're a piece of shit because you're ruining this country, right? You're ruining this. You're part of the devil. And they truly judge you. And they are truly like putting you down.
Right.
And notice how you just don't care.
Yeah, I don't care. And that has such an appeal to it. You know, from a diet industry image, it's more, you know, that whole image thing of not caring, that would be, yeah.
To where you could live amongst the religion and not hold yourself to it. Like imagine if your parents were, you know, Bible thumping, far right religious zealots, right? You can't listen to music. You can't dance. You can't drink, right? You have to go to church every Sunday, right? You have to pay your tithes. You got to do it. You got to dress a certain way. You can't watch specific types of movies. You can't listen to specific types of music. Okay? Just your parents are that way. And so are your siblings. And you've realized that it's not working for you anymore. In fact, you're crazy. You're crazy, right? And you want to experience real life. You want to listen to, you want to get in the world. You want to be an anthropologist in your own culture. You're done being isolated from reality, right? And you go out and you realize, my God, there is so much love and it isn't as crazy as they say. It's not dangerous. In fact, you look back and you go, they're living a dangerous life, right?
Yeah.
Because there's so much ignorance. So then you go back. Do you need them to tell you that it's okay for you to leave the cult?
No. And you know, the interesting thing about what you said is I'm okay with, and that example, I'd be like, I'm okay. They can believe whatever they want to believe if it makes them happy. And I'm totally fine with it. You know, but when we look at the diet industry, it's like I can't see it like that.
Well,
you know?
because
like
you believe it. So
yes.
This would be like, okay, that religion environment, like your sister's in it and you're not, right? And she's miserable and she's like having issues, binge eating and with body image. And she's having issues with like a drug, like pharmaceuticals, because, you know, you can't drink or smoke. So let's just abuse pharmaceuticals. Anyways, and she's like miserable and she doesn't believe it anymore and she feels isolated and she's afraid that her parents are going to reject her and her husband is going to leave her. But she's spiritually collapsing.
Yeah.
What does she need to hear to be able to leave it, give herself the grace of reality, that I have grace on my side, right? Just to give herself sanity and experience in this one life you have with this body, right?
Right.
And then to be able to do it and not defend herself and validate what she's doing, and she can just leave it.
Yeah.
And still love it, and you can still go in there and be like, yeah, we should be eating healthier. That's the truth.
Yeah.
That's a true statement, but whatever health is to you, that's really relative.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm painting this picture. So you left. You're seeing and feeling the insanity of that religion. Because it is a religion. You need to see this as worshiping the thin body. Everything revolves around that body. You're worshiping it as if it is God.
Yeah.
And God
but at the same time, you said something that was so great a couple of years ago. You said the one thing you can't do, which makes sense, you can't be anti.
No, because that's still controlling. It still has power over you then. If you're anti.
Exactly. And so I think that's where, you know, I'm like, well, because I want to control it. So I'm like, okay, well, if I'm not in the industry, then I have to be anti-industry.
Well, that's still saying that I believe that industry, But I have to justify why I'm not in it anymore. So if you leave it and you don't need to justify it, then you don't need to defend yourself from it. Right?
Yeah.
And that's really where we're at, because you know what? You can't change the people that are in your life, that are in your clan, that are important to you. And ultimately, if you leave that environment in your own headspace and you give yourself compassion, you got to give them compassion too, because you can understand how crazy it is, right? You can look at them and go, oh my God, they're in it and it is so hard and they believe it and it's running their lives. It's everything they think about, everything they talk about. They're completely wrapped their identity around it. I have been there and I have compassion for it. So it is forgivable, and they're in it and they're miserable, and I know it.
Yeah.
Right. So then judging them doesn't solve anything, because then that makes them even more defensive and more attached to it.
Right. And where they are perfectly normal in, you know, the industry and given their belief system of it.
Thank you. You just picked that up. That it's given their beliefs and that they believe it, their behavior is normal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
It's almost like we've got to get you to somehow visualize yourself really pulling out of it and then creating your own personal beliefs about it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like saying, do you want to be on the side that says this is true and we should all be held to it, therefore I'm a shameful piece of shit and everybody's judging me and I feel like a failure?
Yeah.
Right? Like if you left that religion, let's say your parents were religious zealots, blah, 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 and you actually decided I cannot breathe anymore, I'm dying inside, I'm going to leave it. I have to give myself the grace to leave it and to learn for myself what works for me, because that's how I need to survive somehow. Right?
Yeah.
What would it take for you to not feel bad about that?
Well, you have to believe in strongly in what do you know what I mean? Where you're at.
What you need to survive.
That's right. I mean, you have to believe in that very strongly, where it's no longer a question of, is this the right thing or not? You know, you have to believe in your bones that this is, like, for example, with this, I have to believe in my bones that the reason I appreciate that body is because of the diet culture. The reason I think my life would suddenly be better is because of the diet culture.
Yeah, that's what you were taught.
Normal. Right.
It's not necessarily what you internally believe. It's what you were told you had to believe.
That given that culture, that's norm, but it's not. There's another possible being with that.
Well, it's not working for you anymore. It's like it's starting to collapse. You can't. Can you breathe in it? Can you even breathe? There's no room for you.
Yeah.
You can't be an individual in those environments. You are a body. That's all you are.
Yeah.
And eventually it does collapse in on everybody that's in it.
Yeah.
So, because it's so controlling and it's so manipulative and it's so, it's impossible. The bar raises. It doesn't stay the same. The bar rises. So not only is the bar based on how you look rising, but how much you have to minimize your food is rising. It's extremely anorexic. We're worshiping anorexic starvation, and it gets higher and higher and higher. So, and as that's happening, you're feeling smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and there's very little room to breathe. So the decision that you were just talking about has to come from what you believe, from inside of your heart and spirit. What is right for you to survive. When I say to you, let's go back into that. Let's do a 30-day cleanse. Get back into it. Let's do it. How does that feel?
Horrible. I mean, seriously,
like you can't breathe?
Just ties you up in knots. Because it's not. I know it's not going to work.
Well, it doesn't. Do you like doing things like that? Is it
No.
It makes you kind of want to retch a little bit, like.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So you've come to a crossroads.
Yeah.
to either continue to do what everybody else thinks you should do because that's what they believe, or you go the route where there is no sign, there's no road that you can see. It's self-navigated in the process of it, right? You are witnessing and developing your spirit and what you believe from the foundation of where it stems from, which is the wellspring of your integrity. Because that's really where you're at. It's like, I've been hijacked by this belief system. My whole life, my identity's been hijacked, and I no longer want to do it anymore because it's killing my spirit, right? It's killing me. It's killing my body.
It's right? Killing my body and my spirit. And
the development of your spirit. Yeah. So now you're at this crossroads, which is, I can no longer afford to judge myself by those standards because it just keeps me there. I won't move. I won't move with the crossroad. I'm staying here.
Yeah.
Right? There's a conflict here. So either I stay in this feeling of I suck, I'm a piece of shit, I'm a failure, or I decide, you know what, I don't want to believe those beliefs anymore. I'm willing to experience other opportunity. I want to go out and get a taste of my reality. And whatever that is, it's going to fulfill my integrity. It's going to stem from that wellspring of my spirit. Right? So that's when I'm saying, okay, so now you're having compassion for the receiving side and you want to release yourself from feeling bad about it. Because truly, do you feel that you need to feel bad about yourself based on all the work that you've done, all the integrity, all the dedication, all of the identity that you dedicated to that religion of food and body image?
I don't think extrinsically, I don't think that I should feel that way at all. Do you know, like, I've tried everything that I can possibly try.
Okay, you got an A+, so you've actually kicked ass, right? So really, you can feel proud of what you've done inside that religion.
Yeah.
Like, you really, really did an amazing job.
Mm-hmm.
You preached it, sister.
I did, yeah.
And you can be really proud of yourself. Like, let's decide what you're being graded on. Are you being graded on the body image, or are you being graded on your efforts and your integrity? And I want you to really look at what you put into that. Your heart and soul and your identity. You gave it everything.
Right.
And it just it's fruitless. So where's the flaw?
Well, I know that's the thing. The flaw is in the culture, the mindset of that.
Yeah, what they preach and what they tell you you'll get.
Yeah,
it's fruitless.
Yeah,
you get nothing. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, is where the hardship for you is coming from. Don't you agree? When I say let's go back into it, you're like, it's fruitless. It is like obsessive. It's compulsive. It's full of fear and anxiety and constant feelings of inadequacy and guilt. And am I ruining this? I have failed. There's this insanity inside of it that you have to be willing to take if you want to stay in it. So you've gotten to the point where you're just like, I don't know if I can take this anymore.
Yeah.
To where, I can't do it. So you're at the point now, you're at the crossroads, you're at this moment where you have to really look at where the flaw exists and why you feel bad about it. Because the only reason I think why you feel bad about it is because you believe the fact that your body didn't respond and neither did your psyche. That the flaw is that you never got the fruit.
Yeah.
But you did get the fruit, but it didn't provide those emotions that you thought it did. Yeah. Right? And it required the insanity continue. So this idea that you can do all this work and then you'll attain it and life's good forever, the heavens gates open for you, that doesn't exist for anybody because it requires you still work on perfection. Like once you hit perfect, you still got to work on it. So that's and then what it took to get there, that's what you have to do to continue it. And that's insane.
Yeah.
You don't realize it when you sign on the dotted line, I will dedicate my life to being thin. You signed on the dotted line.
Yep.
Here's the cool thing about grace. You can erase, you can shred, you can burn the contract. The contract you made with the diet cult and the food mongering culture and the exercise culture and all the cults that you sign and make a contract with, you can change it because it's no longer working for you. Because you're the one who's actually in control. They're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can pull out and say, you know what? This is not okay. I would never teach this to anybody. I know from the inside what it's about. I've been in it. I witnessed from the inside. I dedicated. I was a preacher. I dedicated everything to it. And I'm here to say that it is flawed from the foundation. And I released myself from that contract because I was duped. It wasn't developed from an adult's point of view. I was probably a teenager when I signed the contract. I was totally naive and being guided by other people's naivety. And now you're an adult. Now you have a full experience. Would you say you've experienced the diet culture 100%?
Absolutely.
Okay, you've done it all. Now let's give it a grade. Give the diet culture a grade in terms of it providing you the fruit of emotional awesomeness.
It gets an F.
Never worked. So do you get an F?
Yeah.
Or does that system get an F because you implemented it wholeheartedly?
Yeah.
So
yeah. I do not get an F because I gave it my all. It didn't work. Like they said it was going to work.
Who does it work for? I want you to really tell me, who does it work for? Do you know anybody that it's actually worked for?
I don't know. You say that because I know no one that it's worked for.
Me neither. And I've been working in this industry for like a long time now. 15 years?
Isn't that funny? Yeah. Yeah. It's sad. And by thinking it's going to work, and then when you fail...
And then you suck, right? Don't forget, when you fail, it's your fault.
Yeah.
You piece of shit.
It's not their...
Yeah. So you are at this crossroads where you have to really identify what your beliefs are from the wellspring of your integrity. This is like saying, should I feel bad about myself if I decide to have pasta for dinner? Is that worthy of shame?
In the diet culture, it certainly is.
Oh, yeah, you better feel bad. You better.
Yeah. Yeah.
You failed. And that gluten is the devil. It is going to make you eat more. It's like a narcotic. It makes you have cravings. You need to avoid it. You can't have it. You know what? Because you can't handle it. You can't handle it.
You know, Robin, the only thing that seems to give me some freedom in this, and this is I keep having this conversation over and over in my head, is if the doctor came to you and said, this is the body that you have and you can't do anything about it for the rest of your life, this is it. That's the only thing that seems to give me freedom around the body. Because then the conversation around me doesn't matter because it doesn't apply to me.
Nope.
You know, like the diet, it doesn't apply to me because this is the body I have. The doctor said nothing's going to change. I'm going to have this no matter how much I work out, no matter what I eat. Do you know, like that? And that seems to be the one that really gives me freedom.
Well, you know what it's doing is it's saying here's the body you have versus the body they want you to have.
Right.
Choose. The body they tell you have to have, which isn't your body, it's their body. And the body you actually have.
Right.
The way it functions. The way it, you know, works in the earth and in reality. It's personal biology versus the diet body that only works with their religious beliefs around food, their dogma around exercise, and the way they tell you you have to look to be valuable. It's their body. So that's really what this is about. Is it your body? Are you good with, does your body have any grace? Like, which one do you want? So I think that's really what you need to start seeing is it's either the body they're portraying you have to have attached to all of those emotions, right? Remember, there was these emotional attachments to that thin body that you internalized as true. I believe it. When I get that body, I'm going to have the gates of heaven open.
Music and all.
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, absolutely. And everybody's going to take a picture of your waist and use it in their Pinterest. Right? Because it's in a vacuum. Do you know what I mean by that?
Say that, because there's something about that. Talk more about that.
Well, there's the diet cult and the body image cult. Everything's in a vacuum. It's in an isolated environment. It's like they portray everything as if it is linear. Okay? In a vacuum. Like you should be able to eat no grains, no gluten, no starch. You should be in the keto world, right? And you should eliminate all sugar because it's the devil. Do you hear how vacuum that is? Like that's in a life where you don't move.
That is, yeah. And you have no temptations. You have nothing going. You have no mood swings. You
are living in a box that is vacuumed. So there is nothing around you.
Oh my God, that's brilliant.
Well, that's what it is. It's brilliant because you're going, that's the truth. The exercise, it's like every bicep curl you do is in a vacuum. It makes your biceps work and it'll make them bigger and more pronounced. Vacuum in that tiny little spot of perfection. Yeah. Like there's no reality. It's like everything has a white backdrop. There is no reality in it. It's in a vacuum. The pictures you're seeing of that have been airbrushed, okay? These bodies that are, you can see curves and lines. You realize that they add color, they do all sorts of stuff it's in a vacuum of perfection. There is no reality in it. And what happens is your brain doesn't know that, okay? And the more often you see these pictures, the brain takes and makes it its landscape. So the thing about social media is it is so infiltrated our lives. How often are you looking at Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, Ask? All of these social media, it is like you probably look at your phone and your computer more than you do the TV.
Yep.
Okay, this is a huge part of why this is getting worse in our culture, is you're being infiltrated. It's very pervasive with these images of what your brain thinks becomes landscape of normalcy, right? Like it becomes what you think unconsciously is normal. Okay? But it's in a vacuum. Remember, all those pictures are in a vacuum of perfection. There is no reality. There's been no childbirth. You're always 18 years old in those pictures.
Yeah. Which is funny because, I've always thought, gee, I could do this. I could do the diet industry thing. If you locked me in a room and they gave me the food that I was supposed to eat and I did nothing else, and then when I was all done, then I could come out and go back to my life.
Yeah. Like all of a sudden you can fly to Paris and have their bread and cheese, but you can't have it in America.
Right.
Right. Remember, it's in a vacuum. So this culture has created a vacuum sealed ideal. And then it's become the norm because of our brains seeing it all the time. And you don't question it. It's very pervasive to how it's like our children. The more often we see these, they think it's normal. Like they don't realize that it's a vacuumized picture of perfection that is based on just visible attractiveness, right? You didn't realize that when you see these pictures, when you see all this stuff and it's bombarding your eyesight and your landscape, that it's pervasively adjusting your brain's concept of what's reality in your society, right? Your brain is created to actually understand its landscape so that it recognizes safety, right? So these pictures, you're unconsciously attaching to as safe. And then they say, sugar's addictive. One bite, it's like cocaine. Would you give a tablespoon of cocaine to a baby, right? And all of a sudden there's this fear, right, around food. Yeah. And if you want this body, you got to eliminate your sugar, right? You got to get rid of gluten. Here's how to get the body. So they give you the body that you have no idea that you've normalized. No question. You compare yourself to it and feel flawed.
Yeah.
But you're not in a vacuum. You're in reality. You got kids. You got a job. You got a husband. You got to go to bed at night. You got to wake up in the morning. You got to fix food. You got to go to the grocery store. You got to be able to afford it. Right? You've got chaos. You've got family. You've got judgment. You've got siblings. You've got, your children are having issues with their friends and whatever. And you have celebration and you have things that are exciting and you've got seasons and you've got our culture that is just like full of freaking food, right?
Yep.
But yet you believe the vacuum world is worthy of praise.
And doable. And it's not.
No, it's not. But yet you feel like your body has failed, right? Because you have a vacuum picture. Perfected, perfectly white. It's almost like that you believe is more realistic than reality. Yeah. And so it's like, hold on, those pictures are not realistic. They've been airbrushed. This girl is 16. She hasn't even had her hips wide. Like she hasn't gone through those changes. Like those pictures you see constantly. And it becomes part of the landscape your brain attaches to as safe. And then you naturally compare yourself to them. We all do. And you see there's a difference. And you don't question the picture, you question your reality. And then you're made to think like reality is flawed, but the picture isn't.
Right.
And then you put money towards it. This is where the media has become very pervasive in the social media outlets. It's become a very strong, rapidly growing problem. Yeah. Anyways. So, this position that you're in, where you're like, I'm very conflicted, you need to ask yourself the question, which do you want to be on the side of, no, the perfect body is attainable. I want it, even though you've never attained it. Do you want to believe that? Do you want to give your whole heart to that?
No.
And you need to do it
happy with who I am now.
Yeah, you need to do it independently. You don't bring your husband and your children into this unless they want to know more.
Okay.
It can be peaceful. It can be quiet.
Yeah.
And it's like separating yourself from the belief system, not your family. It's the belief system you're separating yourself from. And then what is the meaning of life then? If it's not about being thin. How should we approach reality? And the key is to then say, well, I don't even know what reality is then. So that's where it's like, here's your body. It's either the vacuum body that they sell you, that you've believed in, that you dedicated your life to achieving, and all the emotions they attach to it, right? Like you're going to be sexy and worthy and accomplished to that thin vacuum body, even though you've done it all. You dedicated yourself to it. And you never achieved those emotions, and it was very difficult and rare to even get the image, or reality, which has grace and freedom in it. And life is in reality. Like you can actually sustain life in reality. And go to Paris and eat in different cultures. Like you can actually do that. In reality, you don't have to do these, let's get back on board things. Like, no, you're on board. You don't need to get back on track with your food because you're on track with food because you're eating biologically. Right? When you're hungry, what sounds good to you? Diversity. right?
Yeah.
So you're either back on track with the cult or you're in track in reality all the time.
Robin, is this common? I feel like this conflict, and I feel like I am beating my head against the wall, and I should have gotten this weeks ago. And it's like crazy to me. It just seems like I'm stupid. I feel stupid.
Okay, everybody.
Intrinsically, it makes complete sense.
Everybody in the YouTube world, is this common?
Oh my God. If you would just take.
Everybody who's watching this is going, oh my God, you're just like me. Oh my God, I don't know how to do it. Ah! You're so true. Yeah. We should get a book club together and talk about it. I want you to tell me this. I really want you to think about it. Is this normal for people who were indoctrinated into that culture, who believed the imagery, the image in a vacuum? They actually thought that was realistic. The diet that was in a vacuum. They thought that was realistic. Exercise in a vacuum. They thought that was realistic. You tell me if this is common.
I don't know.
Well, I want you to tell me from your experience. Is this something that you could see if anybody else experienced what you're experiencing? Would it be hard for them too?
Yeah. Okay. No, that's true. Okay, great. I got that.
That's called, that is compassion, what I just showed you how to do. Okay. That's compassion. Yeah. Would you have compassion? Would anybody, based on how strongly you believed it, how strongly you dedicated your life to it, how strongly your family is dedicated to it, would they struggle too?
Yeah.
Of course they would. Compassion. Holy shit. Grace. Yeah. Grace in this process.
Yeah.
Can you see why I don't have expectations for people?
Yeah, no, I get it. And when I put myself in someone else's shoes, I totally get it. It's not a walk in the park.
No, it's not, because it's what you are going through is an identity crisis.
Yeah.
Where you are looking at something that you have fully exhausted your spirit in.
Yeah. And I put all my hopes and dreams in the result. And so then recreating your life is scary and it's not easy.
No, it's not. Compassion, honey. But the hardest part is when you let go. Well, holding on to this, I want to rephrase this, holding on to that culture and then still judging yourself, that's super hard. That is, I believe for me, it was the hardest thing I've ever done, was to continue to feel flawed spiritually based on my religious upbringing, my physical religion, my everything. Holding on to those and then judging myself by it was the most heart-wrenching, most difficult suffering I've ever been through. Okay? When I released myself from the beliefs, it was like melting butter.
Well, what you described about how hard it is, that's what I feel like I'm going through right now.
Yep, and I'm with you, honey. I personally understand it from my own experience. It was that is where suffering existed for me, because I was worthy of killing myself because of all of that shame and the fact that I didn't want to be identified as that religion, and I didn't want to be identified by my body anymore because I felt so bad about it that I was willing to commit suicide. That's how hard it is. It is full of suffering.
Yeah.
But then I realized when I chose to stay alive that I wanted to free myself to start over, and to use my true source of light as my guide. And that was my integrity of what felt good to me, what was rewarding for me. If it wasn't rewarding for me, and it didn't line up really with my integrity, I would back out no matter what judgment. So to me, that was the shift. There was a shift there. When I said I can no longer live in this suffering, what is the alternative then? This is so important. This is an important position for you. Suffer as long as you need to, because to me, that's the suffering in it is where you learn compassion. And that's what dismantles the belief system from being real to you. Right? Suffering from the judgments of the belief system to me is so important, because it's where you learn to have compassion that releases you from the beliefs, because you realize through the suffering of the believing of it that it is wrong.
Yeah.
That this can't be right. This can't be virtuous. The source of this cannot be worthy of worship, because no one should feel this awful.
Yeah. About
themselves. So you're going through the dismantling, the unraveling phase of this. And again, the more suffering you have because you won't let go of the belief, the better.
Yeah.
And then once you go, it's done, I will never go back. It's not even an option to hold myself to it. What you're gonna say to me is, this is so easy. That was hard. That was so incredibly painful to sit in that. So you will have a shift. It does occur. Just stay with where you're at and allow it to organically open and bloom. Okay, this is another long one. So thanks for letting me share this. Are you comfortable with me posting this one?
Yeah, that's fine.